Join me as I dive into the world of the Bible and challenge myself to rank the top 5 superheroes with insane powers. Who will come out on top, Joshua, Elijah, Moses, or Jesus? When we think of superheroes, our minds often wander to the likes of Superman, Iron Man, or Captain America, but what about the original superheroes, the ones found in the Bible? These biblical figures didn't just possess incredible abilities, they also had a deep connection with God, making them some of the most powerful beings in history. These superheroes didn't have it easy, though. They faced incredible challenges and obstacles that tested their faith and resolve. From battling fierce armies to standing up against powerful rulers, their bravery and conviction were constantly pushed to the limit. Despite the odds, they persevered, and in doing so, performed some of the most astonishing miracles recorded in Scripture. In many cases, their powers were a direct result of their faith and trust in God. When faced with seemingly insurmountable tasks, they turned to Him for guidance and strength, and it was this divine intervention that allowed them to achieve the impossible. The stakes were always high, and their ability to tap into God's power made all the difference. But what about when they were faced with their own doubts and fears? How did they overcome their own limitations to perform feats that would be remembered for centuries to come? It's in these moments that we see their humanity, and it's what makes their stories so relatable and inspiring. Joshua, for instance, was able to topple the walls of Jericho with a simple shout, and Moses parted the Red Sea with nothing but a staff. Elijah defied the laws of nature, summoning fire from the heavens to consume his enemies, while Jesus, well, he did the impossible, he rose from the dead, defying the very fabric of mortality. Joshua's wall-tumbling abilities were put to the test during the siege of Jericho, where he and his army faced a seemingly impenetrable fortress. But with God's guidance, Joshua was able to bring down the walls, paving the way for the conquest of Canaan. Elijah, on the other hand, faced off against the prophets of Baal, summoning a fiery inferno that consumed the sacrifices and left the false prophets quaking in fear. Moses, meanwhile, found himself at the edge of the Red Sea, faced with the pursuing Egyptian army and no clear escape route. It was then that he raised his staff, and the waters parted, allowing the Israelites to pass through safely while engulfing their pursuers. In Jesus, his powers were limitless, from healing the sick to raising the dead, and ultimately, sacrificing himself for the salvation of humanity. But what about the most dramatic moments from each superhero story? For Joshua, it was the Battle of Jericho, where he faced off against the mighty walls that stood between him and the Promised Land. For Elijah, it was the showdown with the prophets of Baal, where he proved the power of God in the most spectacular way. For Moses, it was the parting of the Red Sea, where he led his people to safety and left the Egyptians to their fate. And for Jesus, it was the crucifixion and resurrection, where he conquered death itself and sealed the fate of humanity. In conclusion, these biblical superheroes are more than just figures from ancient stories, they're examples of faith, strength, and resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity. They remind us that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope, and that with trust in a higher power, anything is possible. So, who's your favorite biblical superhero? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our other video on the most epic biblical stories you've never heard.